Hello and welcome. This is Cherie with rehashfiber, and today we're going to talk about how to actually rip out your knitting to fix mistakes. A few episodes back, I had talked about to fix or not to fix. That was more about assessing your garment. Will your mistake affect it structurally? Can you live with the mistake or not? And will it be seen or not? Then you have the choice to fix it or not fix it. Now, this is the actual if you need to fix it. These are the 3 ways you can do it. The first way is just if you're knitting along and you see you have a mistake and you just pull your needle out and rip back. Yep, it's a drag. You've got all those live stitches and now you got to go through one by one and pick them up. Sometimes they drop below to the next row, so you have to undo the slow way anyway to pick it up, but you've got it, you're there. The second way is to just turn it around and take it out stitch by stitch. That works if you have just a few rows you have to do and you want to keep all your stitches on your needle. You just do it the slow way. Lastly, if you've got quite a bit to rip out, you can set a lifeline by using needle and yarn. And then when you rip out, your stitches are contained. So right now, I'm going to show you how to do all 3 of those. If you've realized you've made a mistake in your work and you need to rip out your knitting, I'm going to give you some pointers right here. So when you realize that happens, there are some factors you need to take into consideration. How far back is the mistake? How slippery is your yarn? And how intricate is the pattern? So I'm going to talk about the 3 ways I rip out and why. So the first way would be just pull your needles out and rip back. I would do that if I had many inches that I needed to go back, if my yarn was not too slippery, and if the pattern is not intricate, because then you can just take it out and pick up the stitches as you go. So I'm going to show you that right now. Here is my fake mistake. Here goes the needle. Here goes the rip out. This is a DK weight superwash merino, so it's just right there in the middle of, not slippery and does not have the scales of wool. All right, so here we are, all those live stitches. Yes, it's very uncomfortable when they're all live, it's a pain, but here's what we're gonna do is we're gonna pick them back up again and we're gonna go through them through this right side, where you see this right arm of the stitch needs to be in the front. Now, here's the thing. Do whatever you've got to do to get your stitches on the hook. Don't pull too much or you're going to pull another stitch out. If you can't get that arm from the right in the front, don't worry about it. Just get it on the needle, because you can go back and fix that in your knitting, or if you have to go back a row. And yes, it's tedious, but it is very worth it to have a mistake fixed. You'll be happier in the end. All right, so there we go. All right, so the stitches are on the needle and a couple of them look a little funny, so I'm going to backtrack. I'm going to take out the last row and re-knit it so that I know everything is going the way it should be and is correct. To take out the last row, hold the yarn in your right hand and you're going to slip the needle into that stitch below, going behind that right arm. Once you have it, you can slip it off and have it on your right needle. So the right needle goes into that stitch below, picks it up, slide that off, take that stitch out. Here we go all the way across. This is going to help to know that you have your stitches all correct. And yes, I know it's a drag to have to undo. However, I think the pain lasts longer if you have a mistake left in that you really didn't like, that you're going to notice, and then it's there. That might bug you till the end of time. So we're going to fix it right here. Now, if it's something you're never going to see and it's not going to bug you, then don't worry about it. Okay, here we are at the end of the row. We have all the stitches back on. They're secure. They're laying the correct way, and we're ready to start knitting the project again. At the end of method number 1 there, I did show you how to take your stitches out stitch by stitch to go back a row. So that is actually how I do method number 2 of taking out your knitting, is stitch by stitch. The reason I would do that is if I only have 1 or 2 rows to go back, if it's in more intricate pattern, and if the yarn is very slippery. Because it's really a drag if you have slippery yarn to just rip it all out and have all those loose stitches that start sliding down. Horrible. And if possible, if you can keep your stitches on the needles, it's good to do so because then you know where they are. So here we go. We're going to go back a couple of rows. I'm going to show you how to take it out in the knit stitches and the purl stitches. Let's say the mistake is down just a couple of rows. You're going to flip your work over and you're going to work it out backwards. So the yarn is in my right hand with some tension, and the right needle goes behind into the stitch below under that right arm. Slide the stitch off. So it's wonderful because you still have control. You have tension here, and you're just going to do that all the way across. You're going behind, the right arm there is in front, and you're slipping it off. So I'm just going to take those all the way off just like that. Now there's a little bit more to think about if you're working in a pattern that has yarn overs and knit 2 together and such. But right now I'm just showing you the straightforward simple. Oops. Yeah, you see how slippery that is? I'm to the end, and we're going to get that one. Sometimes at the end they can be a little confusing. Okay, we took out 1 row and we were looking at the purl side here when we took it out. Now I'm just going to show you a couple from the knit side. Very similar. You're going behind and in the stitch below, behind it with that right arm in front. I'm going to hold a little tension on the yarn that's coming out, and I'm going to slip that needle off. We're going behind in the stitch below with the right arm in front, put the needle through, slip it off. Keeping tension all the while so that it's a little bit easier to get that stitch off. If you had no tension, it would just be a pain. You would be, it's almost like it's a floppy feeling, like you'd have to pick up the yarn each time. So if you can just keep a hold on it, that makes it a bit more pleasant. And we do this all the way across. And that is how you rip back stitch by stitch, keeping them all on the needle. The third method would be to set a lifeline in the project before you rip it out. A lifeline is a thinner piece of yarn, preferably of a different color, that you will weave between the stitches so that when you rip it out, the stitches are held by this yarn and not loose. So the reason I would use a lifeline would be if the yarn was slippery, if it was a more intricate pattern, and if I had to rip out a lot. Once you set the lifeline lower, you can just rip away and they're all held on. So to do that, you need to go through 1 rung of each of the stitches in the row. So we're going to go ahead and place the lifeline down here. Okay, so I always find it a little bit challenging to get started. You just got to hold the work. You need to go through the right leg of the stitch when it comes to the point here. So you see how this is like this. You want to go through the right leg. This will just help you when you pull it back to have your stitches in the proper alignment and not twisted. Now, if you do it the other way, it's no big deal because half the time, that's what happens to me. I end up going through the wrong rung and they are turned, the stitches are just turned. And all you have to do then is just go through the row and straighten them out. And it's still 100% better than having live stitches. So I'm just going to go through all of them here. And sometimes you do, split the yarn. Try not to worry about that. You can always trim it a little bit or work it out when you get through that row. So you see this does take time, and if you had a few hundred stitches on, it would take time, but also if you lost your stitches when you pulled them out, that would also be hard. Okay, so we're all the way through. I'm just going to show you. You see how each stitch is captured and safe. And now we can pull the needle out. Okay, we're going to rip it out. So you see there, all the stitches are held, nothing's loose, nothing is going to fall below that. It's lovely. Now we're going to go through and we're going to get the stitches back on the knitting needle. You see, it's quite easy to do. Pull the lifeline out. Lifeline is out, all the stitches are in place, and they're in the proper position for knitting the next row. So there you have it. Yeah, mistakes are a drag. Makes you feel bad, but here's what I'm going to say. Try not to get caught up in the negativity. I've been there, however, treat it like business. You're going to just get this done, you're going to start again, and you're going to get it right, because then you will have that happiness in the end by seeing your garment that is done right. Frankly, I feel that a lot. And I just have to fight that negative feeling and go, we just got to get this done. So think about that. Also, I do have a couple of knit tragedies to tell you about. They both involved intricate lace patterns. One was a shawl, and then a few years later, one was a dress that had a lace pattern at the bottom. Doing my best to keep everything straight and on track, still screwed it up. Tried to take out and fix, got even worse. This is both of them. Finally, so bad, both got ripped out. That intricate lace shawl is not going to be done. That went by the wayside. The dress, I am going to conquer that someday. So that is on the shelf until I feel like conquering it. But I could not do it now. A lot of stitches on that, a lot of mess ups, done. So I'm just telling you, it happens to all of us. Also, if you have any further information you would like to share about this, and if you have any great advice for going back, ripping out lace and keeping track of that, please let me know, because I'm a little stumped on that one. It's quite hard to do. All right, everybody, that is it for today. And you know what I do want to say? Happy ripping out your knit mistakes, because you will be happier in the end. Thanks for watching.